Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Inside Podcast again. This is number 3, and today, me and my guest, or my guest and I, are going to be talking about body, how we see our bodies and body images and that sort of thing. So, what is your name?
My name is Lucy.
And how old are you?
20.
What is your schooling and your work experience?
I went to an all-girls private school and now working at a law firm.
Cool. And how do you know me?
Friends from a party from 2013.
Yeah, that was a crazy party. And a few other parties since then, hey?
Yeah.
We went to the first party, we were just talking about this, the first party that I met you, a guy, a friend of mine, broke a glass table and then walked all over it in his feet and then bled all over the deck. And then the second one was at my friend James's house, and that was a cool party. And the third one was at a tennis court party, wasn't it?
Yeah, where they
Yeah.
played.
They played. It was very loud, and the band were rocking out. Okay, cool. Would you say that you are an introvert or an extrovert?
I would say I'm more of an extrovert because I'm pretty loud sort of person. Not really.
You want to be around friends
Yeah,
and
I
stuff?
like being around people.
Yeah, and that gives you energy, get
I've got
hyped up.
easy energy. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And for the lead-in question, talking about how we see our bodies, what was the first time that you were sort of conscious of how you looked in relation to everybody else?
I guess it was like back in, probably 2007, back in the day. And everyone starts, getting interested in boys and this and that, and I was doing sport almost competitively, and it was really important what science you were in sport especially, and with that at school as well, it became really
So,
interesting.
sort of around just before teenagerhood,
Yeah, just the start of
and
that.
was it synonymous with like crushes and developing hormones, do you think?
Yeah, and like you just kind of want to fit in. Everyone else was going to like that, and you just want to be like, oh, so everyone else is starting to like go, oh, if you drink more water, you won't be as hungry. And you're like, oh, so this is like the in thing or
Yeah.
the norm thing.
Do you think it was one of those, like if you were in English class, would you describe it as a loss of innocence moment?
A little bit, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And so you touched on it, the influences, like the things that you sort of described as being the main causes. You were a pretty successful athlete, just regionally. You're pretty good at the gymnastics, or you did in other athletic sports like that, and also you said you went to an all-girls school. Can you expand on those points a bit?
Well, yeah, in gymnastics, basically, like it's almost like a simple physics thing. The smaller you are, less weight, mass, gravity, and stuff, and it's easier to be small and more flexible. So they put pressure on that, and it's very subtle, like not even that subtle to the point where I was even told to suck in my thigh or suck in my stomach while doing something. And I was like, oh, okay, it's a bit of an uh-oh moment. And being in an all-girls school, everyone talks about like, diets or this, or oh my god, you look so skinny, oh my god, put on weight, oh my god, you're such a fatty, oh my god, you can't believe you're eating like chocolate or this or that.
Were you ever, do you think people knew what they were doing, or was it subconscious what they were saying?
Probably more self-conscious. They don't really think it through and see what effect it has.
Yeah. I think you told me a while ago that people actually did tell you that you're sitting in front of me, you're a very skinny girl, but people actually told you, oh, you do need to be skinnier, like if you want to compete, which is crazy when you're like a school girl.
Yeah, I even had a teacher who made a remark in year 12 just before like the formals, like, oh, you don't want to be any bigger, sort of comment. I was
Really?
like, it kind of hit me. You're like, oh, didn't kind of think that one through.
And that's when you're like, that sort of time, you're almost an adult, but you're still very, very susceptible to that sort of voice in your ear.
Yeah, when you get it from just like one person, and then like your parents make comments like, oh, you're getting a bit chubby there, and then someone else, and then someone else makes a little comment, and then it just builds, and you're like, oh.
Did you think, when people were saying this, did you look at yourself in the mirror and think, there is something like wrong with my body, or do you think, oh, I find myself unattractive, or did you sort of think to yourself, I I feel like I'm fine, but it's just that other people are telling me that I'm not.
Well, it started, I was like, oh, I feel fine, but then everyone, people just say, you're like, maybe if I did try a bit, or do sit-ups, or not eat as much, or, they'll be happy, or they'll like it, or, that coach who's made that comment, if I get something, maybe they'll put me up a bit, or they'll like me more, or something, people that they know they won't like you more, because...
Yeah. One of the big ones that people talk about a lot on the news and stuff like that is like the girls in the magazines and the movie stars and stuff like that. Was that a source of influence for you?
A little bit. Like, I love magazines and like Vogue and the fashion and seeing all that, and it's a bit, you see it all the time. It's on TV everywhere. But I think that it's not the magazines or the media's fault as much as more people closer or influential and stuff. But then now I feel like it's more Facebook and Instagram, which is the biggest drivers of it, because everything's instant and they judge you just on a photo and stuff. So it's not the magazines or the media's fault as such nowadays.
Yeah, I was reading the other day that it can be like Facebook can make people depressed because like people only post on Facebook the good things that happen to them. And like when they go on holidays, or if they're looking particularly good one day, and so you don't get to see their full story. Do you think like you were sort of, I guess, brainwashed into thinking that like that was a normal level to have to try and compete at?
Yeah, a bit, because everyone just wants to post their best stuff. They want to hide, what they don't want to show, because you can show what you want to. And I know especially my sister has such troubles with it. She'll take 20 photos, or get my mum once to take 20 photos, and then she'll put up, she'll kill me if she knows that I said that, and then, puts up the best one and stuff. And you sort of do know that, but at the time you forget that, and you see like, you're scrolling through, or you're looking at people's Instagram or pictures and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, she's got skinny, or I'm jealous of that, and you do forget that they just bring up the best photo, like an editor to make themselves look better. But in that time being, when you're looking, you're like, oh, I'm so jealous, or this.
I know, because I went to an all-boys school, and I know that a lot of guys, they're wrong about this, and they think that girls only dress up because they want to look good for the guys, but it's more to do with the competition with other girls. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I've dressed up a lot, and it'll be the girls who notice more than the guys who notice how much girls dress up. So it's more like we're dressing up for the other girls in the competition of that, and to almost, you guess, like warn off other girls who are like, nah, I'm this good, or whatever.
Yeah, it's like
intimidating.
The makeup can be the battle armor, I suppose.
Yeah, I've got like a friend who's terrified to go out without wearing makeup, like even just the simple basic. She'll wear it to work, she'll wear it everywhere. She's like, oh, I'm just having drinks with the guy and stuff, he's just a friend, but I've got to like stop off at someone's house to put makeup on first. Yeah. And you're like, really? You've known him for how long? She just have to.
Yeah. You're right in saying that guys, like, they don't notice a lot of stuff, and they don't know, like, I'll be the first to admit, like, I couldn't tell how much one person was wearing makeup or another, but this one girl told me one time that a guy told her that she should not wear as much makeup and have a more natural look like Kim Kardashian. And Kim Kardashian obviously is wearing a lot of makeup, but he, in his mind, thought that she wasn't wearing makeup, and that's just normal to look like that all the time. And I suppose, do you reckon that standard, that just impossible standard, is set too high?
It's set way too high. I don't really watch it. I watched a tiny bit of it because we got Fox up for a tiny bit, and I was like, oh, let's see what everyone's watching. And she's a whole like makeup team that come every morning.
Yeah.
A whole team to make you look good.
Yeah.
For the day. It's like, man, that's a lot of effort.
For the whole day. And also, like, in every single aspect, like, the biggest celebrities have stylists and also like unlimited wardrobe and stuff like that.
They're a team to make them look good. Like, who realistically is a team.
Yeah.
To make them look good.
And then one of the other big points is after all of that work, like makeup and stuff like that, and then they get photoshopped to look even better. Do you think it's transcended like humanity, and now like no human could look as perfect as some people in the magazines do? Do you think there's knowledge? Because up until a few years ago, a lot of people didn't know that like Photoshop was a thing that was used.
Yeah, I didn't probably know Photoshop was used till what, 6 years ago. But now it's used, but you don't know how much is Photoshopped, what's not Photoshopped, to the degree of what's real or not real. So you just take it and assume, okay, so we'll just have to go with it being real.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's they've changed or what they haven't.
It's very like obscene when you think about. There's a lot of. This is a generalization, but there are a lot of people who want to look like the people in the magazines, but the people in the magazines don't even look like the people in the magazines. So it's kind of a just ridiculous cycle. Do you think, you talked about how the media wasn't as responsible, but do you think people that like manually Photoshop people like, I don't know, Rihanna or Kim Kardashian or J-Lo, so that they've got like, if you actually stop and think about it, they have ridiculously thin waists and like their bust will be double the size what it is in real life. Do you think that they're like an evil sort of person?
A little bit, yeah. Like, do they realize they're changing to, for us to look at and be like, oh, how amazing is that? But they don't have that, and it's like, you've just distorted what we think of them. That's changing them completely.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy and very scary. What do you think about the whole culture of competition between building what we said before, how it's mostly a competition between girls? Do you think that that's very unhealthy and needs to have more conversation about sort of more of a sisterhood rather than going into battle every day?
Yeah, it's really competitive. Even with like friends, girls being friends, it's like, oh shit, she's like gone to the gym or gone to run, you can see it's paid off, and you're like, oh well, I've got to keep up, I want to look better and stuff. And it's like, if they look better than you, it makes you look worse, but you want to look better. It's this constant competition. Everyone's always very competitive. Girls are very secretly competitive, I feel.
Yeah. What do you think? Because it seems to me like a lot of competition is like that. In the end, like, you're just going to leave a better looking corpse behind. Do you think, how do you think that might be changed? What do you think is the best way forward in terms of helping people relax a little bit?
It's a really tough one, because with the internet and changing your photos and how we can edit photos and like post and ways to make up girls look like they've got those like leg gaps or things like that, and
so some people say like no filter, but you can see the filter.
The filter and stuff. It's a really hard one to work out what to do and what the right thing to do is. Is it like how to actually manage it better, how to say things, like everyone just goes, oh, you look so good, and behind their back they'll say whatever, but it's what you say or what you don't say. And someone's dressed up a lot, it's like, do you comment on it? But then that comment going, oh, you look skinny, and then they go, oh, so people comment when I look skinny now, and they just see it as like, if I lose more weight, people will comment more, like more, and so it's such a weird balance to get.
So do you think there's a lot of sort of positive body image campaigns? I cite Dove as one of those natural beauty campaigns. Do you think that they work, or are they a lot weaker than the other influences?
Definitely a lot weaker. I can see they're trying. I can remember back in school, like PE, we had to do all that sort of stuff. But I can't actually remember what we did or talked about, and I'm still today in the position like, don't like get in this position, don't lose too much weight, don't do that. Well, it's happened, and it's like I don't remember what they were saying, and I can't really control it, and I have no recollection of what they would say to us.
Yeah. How do you, like, you obviously have felt in the past like vitriolic about yourself, and there are other girls who are not nearly as skinny as like you, but have the same problems. Well, how do you see them? Do you, like, most people who have had issues in the past don't see other people as like hideously overweight or anything like that?
No, I kind of give credit to people who are not too skinny now, especially like some people have got like big ass and boobs, and they've got hips and they flaunt it, and I'm like, wow, if I was that size, I'd probably cry. But you just can strut at work and you're happy with that. I'm kind of almost envious of that. Like, well done to them, and
Yeah.
I'm so jealous of people who can be like that.
Talking about if we consider it as sort of like a disease that lives in somebody and like makes them think a certain way, what sort of control did it have over you? Like what sort of things did it make you do that were really negative towards your health and psyche and stuff like that?
I guess it affected like the way I ate, which meant sometimes I wouldn't eat for a couple of days, sometimes I would only eat a very little amount. It would kind of almost affect my mood, so you would waste so much time thinking about it, and then if I weighed more or less on the scales, basically be like, okay, in the morning I'm going to be happy now, or I'm going to be sad now, and it would affect a lot, and people are like, oh, we'll go out for dinner, and it's like, oh dear God, don't make me eat like pasta.
Yeah, don't, that is carb loaded.
Yeah, don't know. Let's have like one piece of sushi, and then you'd kind of withdraw a bit from with people, and you'd have to plan your days accordingly, and be hungry or tired or cranky, you have to balance that. It's just this constant fighting drama, and it's like I don't need this.
Yeah. Did you, because there are like health risks associated with it, did you think like even if I'm a little unhealthier, it'll be worth it?
Well, it's like trying to even still find that balance of kind of going, okay, if I lose too much weight, I'm such a risk still now, but it's like if I gain more weight I'll be healthy, but then I'm not going to fit into my clothes, so I don't know, like I've spent on your clothes, you're that size, I'm happy with that, but then my health is a bit not that great, so it's that massive like argument. I don't want to put on more weight to get fat, then I want to be healthy, I want to be able to go run, gym, so it's just find that balance.
Do you sort of look at it as a pest on you, because you said it was like if you could live without the pressure you would be happier, like you said that like when you aren't eating very much it affects your mood, but you can't eat because then you feel really guilty. Do you think that it's sort of a massive weight on your shoulders, or it's not really that rational?
Yeah, it's completely irrational, and I understand it's irrational, so it's like an everyday argument between rational and irrational. So it's like, okay, I need to eat breakfast, it's healthy, or what happens if I put on weight and then I'm not going to fit into the outfit I plan to wear tomorrow, and then I'm going to be terrified, and balancing that. So it's completely irrational. I understand it's not healthy, and I waste so much time on it, like counting how much calories or intake, and like I could have studied.
Yeah.
I could have worked out, I could have done some other stuff. This is, why am I thinking about this? Why am I concerned? Why am I getting worked up? But at the end of the day, it's like, you worry about it, and every girl probably does worry, no matter what.
There's nothing worse than calorie counting when you just want to eat pizza or something like that.
Oh, that's like, don't even get started how much pizza is.
Yeah, like, I think pizza has like, Domino's has like 7,000 kilojoules, which if you put it into calories is like it's like 1,500 calories. So
that's your weekly intake almost.
Like if you're not eating, and that's you couldn't eat that much.
Yeah.
But you talked about it, how it's like it affects you. Do you think that like when you look at it, do you really think that you could be happy at the end of the tunnel, or is it just digging yourself into a deeper and deeper hole?
It's a bit of both. Like I kind of got to the point, if I got down to say like 45 kilos, I was like, I'll be happy. And then I was like, oh, well, since I got this far, I'll go to 44. And it's like, oh, feeling a bit better. Then I'll go to 43. And then it's like, all of a sudden I started passing out. And it's like, well, that's not good. But then I liked how I looked. And then I put on a bit of weight. It's like, oh, I feel, because I got to that state, how skinny I was at 43. And then when I got back to 45, it's like, now I feel extra chubby. So I've got to get back down to there. So it's,
I suppose we've talked about what it's like to be thinking about it in your own head, but what about the taboos in society? Is it something that's easy to talk about? Like, is it something that you can sort of easily seek help with, or do you feel alone?
I guess it's a very taboo topic. I feel like it's not easy talked about, because not many people, I've only realised recently a few people have made sort of comments, but they're really subtle. Like I injured myself a week or two ago, and someone's like, oh, maybe if you ate more or something, I joke your bones, and then I didn't click, that's because I was too skinny. It's just, and someone else said subtly, it's like when I like fainted at work, I'm like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I'll just go home and have some chocolate, just get some sugar, and they're like, yeah, maybe have dinner as well. And then I didn't quite click, I'm like, oh, maybe that's a subtle way of saying it, but not many people would be straight out and talk about it easily. People feel very uncomfortable having talked about it with some of their friends and stuff. They don't quite understand. They're like, you know, why don't you just eat more? Because I'm like, oh, I was having arguments with my parents because I don't want to like eat that much and stuff. And you know, they say if I'm getting lower, then I'm getting in trouble. I'm like, well, why don't you just put on the weight? It just sounds pretty easy. Just eat a pizza. And it's like, I just don't want to do it. So people are like, it's just going around circles. This is really hard to work out. And like how do people bring it up is a really tough one. Like I've noticed older people or even girls just don't like to talk about it. Really, I find they won't say anything. But guys and older people would say stuff more than guys. Be like, you're getting too thin. And older people would subtly say it too. And girls wouldn't talk about it. So you're like, oh well, if girls don't comment about it, then it should be fine.
Because coming back to the point, like guys, I'm the first one to admit this. Like honestly, do not know that much about how girls think about things like image and fashion and that sort of thing. Because I saw a guy in the club wearing like sandals and socks and a fedora, and it was the worst combination I've ever seen. It was in the club, and they were wearing matching shirts, and there's like 4 of them, and they weren't talking to any girls. But that was just something funny that I remember. Do you think that you said it was taboo and that people skirt around the issue, like they don't really...
Because they're probably too scared to make it worse, maybe even, or...
Yeah, and you also said like people, like when you do talk to people that can talk about it openly, often they don't understand and they say, like, why can't you just lose weight? Like, so why can't you gain weight?
Yeah,
and like it's...
They try, I get the feeling that they're trying to like understand it, but they're like, they still just like, I don't get it, just eat a donut. You're like, I can't because of this like, and you're like, I sort of get it, but just eat the donut. You're like, I don't. Like,
yeah.
So.
They don't like, it's not something that someone can just recover from. Do you think that it should be treated, like a doctor would approach it this way, but a lot of people think that it's just like a lot of people do think it's just a silly little girl thing.
Attention.
Yeah. Or... Do you think that it should be treated more like a condition that someone has to live with?
It really is. Like specialists really do believe that, and like they understand it's like a lifelong thing. They're like, if someone's got it, there's a high chance they're gonna have it forever, no matter what. You know, if they even get the best treatment or not or fully recover, you're never apparently fully there, like you're just always gonna be at the back of your mind.
Yeah. Do you think that do you think that it's a disease? Like, that's a really serious word, but do you think that it's a disease? Because I know a lot of people are sort of
skeptics.
Like they're skeptics, and people who live with it are afraid to say it because there are people that are dying of cancer and AIDS. But I was looking it up, and like 1 out of 10 people who have one of the body image disorders die.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of people who don't make it through. Do you think that it should be treated like as a serious disease sort of thing?
Yeah, it's quite serious because it's just like, I understand it's bad, but I'm going through it. It's like, well, then if you understand it's bad, why don't you stop? You're like, it's not that simple. You just kind of can't.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone who was maybe like your age when you were grade 7, something like that? What would you say at the beginning of teenagehood? What would you say to them to sort of try and convince them not to go down the same path, and that like they are absolutely fine the way they are?
It's so very hard. It's not normally what one person could say. It's a collective thing almost, and some people just take it harder than others, and someone's like, oh, make a comment, and then you act like it doesn't, affect you. So, it's whatever, but then it really does, and it's just how people take it, and you don't want to show that you're hurt by it, and but it then kind of festers and gets bigger and bigger until.
Yeah. And do you think that, I suppose, there would be anything that could have stopped you sort of going down the path that you did, like, or would it be a completely different world?
Yeah, I don't think it'd have to be a completely different world. I don't think, to be honest, anything could have, like, no matter how many times someone would have said I'm skinny, it's like, well, I don't feel it, so I don't know if you're saying that or you're lying, or, what's why you're in it, but why do I see myself like this? Why do I not like it? So I'm confused, and you just sort of go down it.
Yeah. Alright. Well, I mean, I'm pretty happy to leave it there because I wanted to sort of explore what it was like, and obviously it's too much to ask someone or anybody, like, how do we fix this issue? But it's a pretty big one, and like it could be considered to be a nationwide or even an international threat.
Well, it's getting worse, apparently, like a lot worse. People a lot younger are getting more affected because, like, 12-year-olds have Facebook and Instagram now, and they're exposed to it, and they're saying to, like, I know someone's got a young sister who's like 10, and they're like, oh, thinking of going on a diet. And I'm like, how do you know what a diet is when you're 10?
Yeah.
They do now, and they care because it's all in their face. They're in this Insta generation type thing where everything's instant, and they're like, you take the phone, you're like, oh, I'll put a bad photo of Instagram of you, and they're like 13, and they're like getting all upset over it, and like, that will ruin me, and they're like, I'm so scared and stressed to upload of bad photos, like no one likes it. It's like, yeah, it's quite stressful.
Like, I remember, like, seeing on the internet, sometimes you see like screenshots of like kids like 8 years old, and they're having arguments on Facebook, and they'll be like, you're so ugly, and like, it's funny because they're 8 for us, but if you think about it, like, if someone said that to me over the internet when I was 8, like, that would be like really, really hurtful.
Yeah, even now, someone's just like, you're ugly, it's like, unless it's good friends, like, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
It's still even calling your best friend ugly. It's still like, yeah, probably shouldn't do that.
Please don't do that.
Please don't do that. Take it back.
Yeah. Do you think that we, I guess, society as a whole, have to change and sort of nurture childhood? Because really, like, kids these days have full access to a lot of different stuff, and the internet treats everyone as an adult.
Yeah, it doesn't know who you are, where you come from, what you do, how old you are, anything. It just spits out information.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy with that. Thank you, Lucy, for coming on.
My pleasure.
Hopefully, everybody who didn't understand before or didn't really know much about the topic has a bit of a better understanding now and can think about how to help someone out, or perhaps help them not spiral into a cycle. And hopefully we can fix this issue as a whole society, because it's going to take everybody.